Okay, we are live from New Orleans. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to just give a couple of minutes for people to arrive, but I just want to say welcome to the American Marketing Association New Orleans chapter. We are coming to you live, actually from two locations. Isn't that how they say it on the Today Show, Anna?
Yeah.
Hi, from New Orleans and Atlanta. So everyone, welcome. We'll get started here in just a second, but feel free to grab your lunch, get settled. The rain hasn't arrived yet, which is great. Justin, we're sending some rain your way.
We already got it.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I think we're just going to get going because I know I'm always a little verbose in the beginning. So let me get started, everyone. Hello. It is now good afternoon. It's March 31st, a day away from April Fool's Day. So I hope everyone's getting their tricks ready for tomorrow. My name is Mariska Morse. I am the president of the AMA NOLA chapter, and I'm here with Anna Ledon, who is our director of programming. And she is the person that puts all of these amazing events together. And soon you will meet Justin Archer, who is our amazing speaker for today. We are so lucky to have him live from Atlanta, and I will introduce him shortly. But first, again, I just wanted to welcome you to AMA NOLA. We are a brand new board. We're not so new anymore. We got together in August, but there's about 12 of us on the board. And it's been a fantastic, I guess, 10 months or so far, where we have really worked together to kind of figure out what as an organization can we do for New Orleans. And one of the very first things that we all agreed on was giving back to the local community in terms of small businesses and nonprofits, to rising professionals, to students. And we really want to be sort of your go-to resource for marketing, for advertising, for just creativity, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So please keep us in mind in terms of every month we put on these different webinars. At the end of the month, we usually have an expert speaker. In the middle of the month, the second Wednesday, we have a monthly marketing meetup where professionals just get together and talk shop. And that's been a lot of fun. And that is no charge. If you're not already a member, we'll talk about that in just a second. But like I said, AMA NOLA, we are really here for you, and we're always open to ideas in terms of, is there a topic that you'd like to see us cover? So don't hesitate in the chat today to send me a message and say, hey, can you guys do a topic on X, Y, or Z? So I guess to kind of preview that really quick, well, let me go to the questions first. So a little bit of housekeeping. Do use the question box. We are not bringing everyone's photos in today because we have the kind of a speaker type of setup today. So you're all joining us, but we ask that you please be as engaging as possible. Send us your questions, and when Justin wraps up, we'll have a robust Q&A. And then, like I said, in terms of AMA NOLA, we as a chapter put on all of these different events, but when you join, you're actually part of a national network, which is fantastic. And they have reduced the price considerably. I think we're at $149 for the year, and it's even less expensive for students. And then you have access to all of these amazing benefits throughout the whole AMA national chapter. The amount of sort of webinars that they have, trainings, conferences, it's really an incredible value, and you get so much out of it. One of the things I love the best is the journals that they put out there, the magazine. For my former marketing team, we used to do lunch and learns once a month. We would download a webinar, watch it together, and then have a conversation afterwards. So there's a lot of fantastic resources, whether you're with a team or on your own. I highly recommend considering to join AMA. And you get to meet all of us here in New Orleans, which is really special. So thank you for listening to my spiel about AMA. I'm a huge fan. I have been a member for a long time. And we now, through that, we get to invite these fantastic, interesting, amazing, dynamic speakers to share their expertise with the New Orleans community. So it is Absolutely, my pleasure. And bear with me because I spent a little time on Justin's LinkedIn yesterday and was just loving all of the commentary on it. So if you didn't already read Justin's bio, he's absolutely an award-winning senior level marketing and advertising professional. He's most recently with the Mesh team, and props to Matt Pruitt for introducing him to us. Thank you, Matt. He's got tons of experience, including 17 years at a variety of international agencies. Some of the accounts he's currently working on: Warner Brothers, Ritz-Carlton, Delta Airlines, Verizon, Coca-Cola, and Chase. But if you have a chance to check out his LinkedIn, I mean, he's been at some really cool agencies, including Zenith, Moxie, Studio.com, Rare, Aquarium. Justin got his BFA from the Atlanta College of Art and Design and his associate degree from Lewisburg College. He's a very active volunteer as well in the Atlanta area. And I want to find my friends out there and ask them to write these reviews for me, but I did pull a couple of reviews from LinkedIn, and they go from 2020 back to like 2012, Justin. So you definitely have a big fan club out there. So I'm going to put this too. Justin is one of the most inspiring leaders I've had the pleasure of working with. He knows how to attract talented people, how to grow them, and more importantly, how to trust them. He's a people magnet. Pitching work with him is next level. He knows how to get award-winning work done, how to navigate internal and external. I would jump at the chance of working with him again. I mean, these reviews, Justin, they go on and on and on. Not only is he a great coworker and leader, he's a great human who will make a long-lasting effect on any organization he is a part of. So, I mean, these were just like two that I pulled. So thank you. Thank you for being such an awesome human and for sharing your time and expertise with us today. I shall hand it over to you, Justin.
No, thank you so much, Anna and Mariska, for that amazing introduction. I'm truly humbled. So thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you see it.
We see it.
You see it? Okay. Still see it?
Yep, it looks
all right,
perfect.
Cool. I just want to make sure that I'm in full screen mode. But like Anna and Mariska said, my name is Justin Archer. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at Mesh. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to unlock your creativity. But first, I thought it would be beneficial if I just kind of told you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in North Carolina, and I grew up in the Piedmont area, Winston-Salem to be precise. It's known mostly for its furniture manufacturing and for growing tobacco, hence its name. I was raised in a pretty normal middle-class family. I was middle child, still am middle child rather, kind of suffer from that middle child syndrome. I have an older brother and a younger sister. My parents were married right out of high school, and they're actually still together to this day. And in case you're wondering, that's me. I'm that handsome fellow right there. I was a pretty normal kid. I liked riding my bike. I liked playing video games. I played baseball as well as football. I was into model trains. And eventually I got into skateboarding. But what I really like to do the most out of all of those things is I loved art. I liked sketching, drawing, painting, anything that had to do with using my imagination. I was always in the art club at school. My dad bought me a little tape recorder one year for Christmas, and I would create these mock radio shows using that tape recorder, being the DJ. I would make videos with my friends, camcorders, really anything I could do to be creative. I loved that. And so by the time I reached graduation in high school, I had a pretty tough decision to make. And that decision was, did I want to go and have the normal university experience and sit in a classroom filled with dozens and dozens of students, listening to lecture after lecture? Or did I want to pursue my passion and follow a different path? Well, I made the decision to follow a different path and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I got accepted into the Atlanta College of Art and Design. And my dream always was to become a filmmaker, as I consider myself a natural storyteller and I was, very creative. And I loved the process of making art and the process of making movies. So I studied film and video production with a minor in advertising, and I learned how to edit and and I became like really fascinated with the computer side of digital video, compiling, editing, assembling a story, creating a narrative. So I got a job as an editor, putting together like TV commercials, and I really concentrated on honing my craft and really getting into the digital aspect of it. But then around the mid 1990s, the internet really began to blossom. More people were getting online. The whole network aspect of the web started to take hold, and businesses and brands started to take notice, and everybody was kind of entering that online realm. So me being fascinated with this new form of advertising, I decided to buy a stack of books and I taught myself how to design, code, and build in these web experiences. Because it was so new, there really wasn't a lot of educational outlets there to learn these things. And within a short time, the world of online marketing just grew exponentially. It exploded with more and more businesses and commerce taking place online. And with that, digital agencies started to pop up. And soon agencies that used to look a lot like this, very traditional and antiquated, started to look more like this. And this vibe was really attractive to me. It was more agile, it was nimble. It was people that looked like me and thought like me. So I began my agency career. And like Mariska was saying, I spent a lot of time in a lot of different agencies early on in life with big holding companies. And after many of those years, we flash forward to today, where I'm currently the chief marketing officer at Mesh. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Mesh, we're a full service creative agency specializing in digital branding and social. We're headquartered in Baton Rouge, but we also have service offices in New Orleans, Austin, Chattanooga, and Atlanta. And I actually am based in the Atlanta office. And that brings us to why we're here today. And that's to learn how to unlock your creativity. So today I want to break it into like three sections, which are the creative paradox, why we get stuck, and then how to break free. So let's dive into the first section, the creative paradox. I want to start out first by saying everyone is born with creativity. A lot of folks say, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body, or I'm not creative. Well, that's just not true. As a matter of fact, I think Pablo Picasso said it best with this quote: every child is an artist. The problem is to remain an artist once they grow up. And in fact, in a longitudinal test of creative potential in 2018, a NASA study found that of 1,600 4 and 5-year-olds, 98% scored at creative genius level. 5 years later, only 30% of that same group of kids scored at the same level. And again, 5 years later than that, only 12%. So when the same test was administered to adults, it was found that only 2% scored at this genius level. So you see, as a child, you're uninhibited and you're not afraid to take chances. And kids aren't frightened of being wrong. I like this quote from Sir Ken Robinson. He's a professor of arts and education at the University of Warwick. And he's quoted as saying, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. So why do we lose our creative edge over time? And I think this is where nature versus nurture comes into play. what we are born with versus what we learn as we develop as a child and into a young adult. We enter into school where imagination and play start to take a backseat to more practical learning. This is also reinforced at home by our parents. They say things like, don't do music, you won't get a job in that, or stop doodling, it won't lead to anything. Because too much stress, I feel, is put on getting a proper job that is respectable, like a doctor or a lawyer. This is what society kind of teaches us. And this has become so much the perception of the norm that we've seen a defunding of the arts in schools throughout the United States. This slide here is a study that was done by the Los Angeles Times, and it analyzed arts funding throughout the United States. What they discovered is that 30% of public elementary schools have no art classes, period. 50% of the underserved public elementary schools don't even have an art room. And then lastly, 90% of public elementary schools don't have any of the arts, no dance, no drama, nothing. And I find that shocking and sad. But the good news is it's not too late. No matter what the funding is in school or whether you've been a victim of creative suppression, you can turn that around and actually make a difference. The creative spirit is there. You just need to unleash it. So here's some simple things that I'd like for you to remember. First, this quote from Einstein: creativity is contagious, pass it on, which basically translates to you need to be amongst others who will inspire you and inspire your creative side. Also, collaboration is key. You have to feed off the energy and the idea of others. There's no great ad campaign out there or marketing endeavor, movie, song, whatever. That's the work of one single individual. It's a team effort, and people fuel other people. Next, you can't stay holed up in your office by yourself and just expect creativity to come. Surround yourself with a creative environment. Why do you think companies like Google encourages so much play amongst their employees? They know that this unleashes individuals to be their most creative selves. You can also do this solo outside of the workplace. This can be nature, a concert, a book club, a creative seminar, or even a class. Seek these things out to inspire you. Movement is also proven to help with creativity. In 2014, Stanford researchers found that walking boosts creative inspiration. They examined creative levels of people while they walked versus while they stood still. And a person's creative output is increased by an average of 60% when walking or moving. Next thing I want you to remember is to make time to be creative. Just as you would schedule a spa appointment or a round of golf, put creative time on your calendar so that you can focus on just that. But even when utilizing all of these methodologies, sometimes we still get stuck in our creative process. We hit a wall and we feel like we've reached a creative block. So I want to break down a few of the reasons that we hit those walls, why we get stuck, and why we have a creative block. And there's basically two reasons why we get stuck. One has to do with ourselves, and the other is a product of social implications brought on by others. But first, let's start off with ourselves. The conscious mind versus your subconscious mind. It's where all of our thoughts, concepts, and theories start and ignite. This office represents your conscious mind. It's nice and safe in here. You have everything you need, but it's also very, very small. It's confining. It's limited. It's where you stay on task. It's where things are linear. It's where you weigh the pros versus the cons. It's where things are rational. And what else does it look like? I would venture to say it looks like most office spaces that we all work in. but just hopefully not that bad. This represents your subconscious mind. It's vast, it's expansive, it's wide open. It's where your mind is at rest. It's free, it's able to drift in and out of thoughts, making abstract connections and mapping things experienced in the past, such as art, literature, and cinema. The American author Napoleon Hill once said, "The subconscious mind is more susceptible to influence by impulses of thought mixed with feeling or emotion than those originating solely in the reasoning portion of the mind." And truer words have never been spoken. We've got to give the mind space to drift. We've got to let it rest so it can explore these different chasms. And that's why a lot of our best ideas come to us when the mind's at rest, like when we're in the shower or when we're driving. That's because we're doing subconscious things and our minds are allowed to travel and drift into different places. We're too often put into the mode of the rational or the linear. We frequently look to solve a problem, and we're always hyper focused on the problem itself, and we literally paint ourselves into a corner. Rarely do we explore and ask questions. Instead of looking for an answer, we should be asking questions, and lots of them. And I don't mean questions that can just be answered on a creative brief, but truly questioning things. Because lots of times we get stuck. Sorry, I had to put this in here. I don't know if this is too soon, but okay, let's go back to this one then. Because lots of times when you get stuck, it's just your inner self telling you that you could do better. And the pressure we put on ourselves to come up with something truly original. Well, let go of perfection. A common phrase in our industry is to think outside the box. But do you realize how much pressure that puts on somebody, one of your staff members, a colleague? We live inside of our own little box. And we think to ourselves, why would we leave this box? It's safe inside the box. So I like to say, design the best you can inside the box. And if you break the boundary, even better. Think sensibly and then go bigger. And like I said before, with these kids, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Channel your inner child. Break free. So now let's focus on the second part of that, the impact of others. It mostly focuses on the tribe mentality and how we interact with others, the way we are perceived, the way we perceive others. It's perhaps one of the biggest obstacles, in my opinion, that we face when trying to be creative with others. However, on the contrary, it's one of the biggest advantages, if used properly, is feeding off the thoughts and the energy of others. So let's focus on the concept of the brainstorm for a moment. Brainstorms are often very unorthodox. We spend the first 10 minutes waiting for people to show up. Then when they show up, we have a lot of small talk for another 10 minutes. Then we finally get started, and there's rarely a clear objective in the room. There's no methodology, and we rarely reach a final idea. And a lot of the times, going back to the conscious mind, our environments look like this. I mean, who can be creative in this environment? It doesn't breed creativity by any means. It doesn't make for a forthcoming or a lively discussion. So trying to be creative in a group setting is very, very difficult. Brainstorms are usually terribly unorganized. There's no structure and unproductive, and they're boring. And then there's the factor of those that are shy. A lot of people are scared to speak up, even though they might have a great idea. The environment might be too judgmental or suppressive. And let's face it, there's introverted people, there's extroverted people. Not everyone thrives in a group environment. And then there's that one person that speaks up. And as soon as they speak up with the smallest, slightest nugget of an idea, they're the ones that are stuck with that dry erase marker for the rest of the meeting. They're the scribe. They have to write every single thing down, and they become the dominant one, and it ends up show. Sometimes, let's be honest, it's not a great show. So how do we thrive in a group environment? How do we break free? And how do we make meetings a success and time suck? Brings me to my third point. Let's talk about how to unlock brains and break free to get the ideas flowing. So I don't know if many of you out there have heard about Alex Fackney Osborne. He was an American advertising executive. In 1953, he wrote this book called Applied Imagination, Principles and Procedures of Creative Thinking. It was in here where he coined the term brainstorm. And for you that don't know, Osborne was the O in BBDO. He also went on to say, creativity is more than mere imagination. It is imagination inseparably coupled with both intent and effort. So undoubtedly, brainstorming is a key way to cultivate ideas and unlock your creativity. There's many, many brainstorming methods, but I just wanted to focus on a few that I like to use. And some of these are good for you by yourself, and some are good for a group setting. But first, there's some rules of engagement before entering any brainstorm. And I wanted to go over a couple of those with you first. Don't just enter into a brainstorm without an agenda. This is very, very important. Lots of times we walk into a room that's disorganized and people are just expected to speak up and talk randomly about ideas. Have a defined North Star. Make it clear to everyone in the room what we're trying to achieve during this time. Designate a leader or a facilitator, someone who can keep you on task, possibly even take notes. Invite new people. Don't just bring the same old crew. A lot of people think brainstorms should be relegated only to creative folks. Look for people outside of your department or your discipline. Look for subject matter experts. Look for people that are into the things that you're talking about. Look for passionate people, hand raisers, people that want to be a part of the process. They'll be more forthcoming with their ideas and their thoughts. Always start with an icebreaker. You don't go into a sporting activity without stretching or warming up first. You should do the same with your brain. Just a simple exercise where you go around the room and get everybody loose. It can be fun or informative. It just helps to break the tension that's in the room. Next, it's all about quantity of ideas. It's supposed to be about getting as many ideas out on the table as humanly possible and analyzing them and vetting them and selecting them to where the ones or determining the ones that you think have merit. And absolutely have an end. This is very important because there's lots of times these meetings meander on and on and on, and you start to second guess the ideas because you're spending too much time on them, and nothing really comes out of the meeting. You got to know when to step away, when to take a break, and most importantly, when to come back to it. And this last one is probably the biggest one to remember, is that there's absolutely no peeing in the pool when it comes to a brainstorming session. I think more often than not, people like to feel that their form of participation is to judge someone else's ideas, and that's just not the case. They either play devil's advocate, they say, oh, I'm just going to pressure test it, or they even shoot them down. That is one of the biggest ways to take the wind out of somebody's sail, discourage them from speaking up during that session, and discouraging them from ever speaking up again. So, no peeing in the pool, no judgment or brainstorming. So I want to look into like 5 or 5.5 different methods that I personally recommend. I've had success with these in the past. And although there are many different methods out there, I just wanted to highlight these 5. So first up, this one's called the round robin. It's very simple. You start off with an idea and you just pass it to the right. It can be written down on an index card and passed quietly, or it can be spoken out loud and built upon from person to person to person. This is great because everyone has to participate. And even those that are shy or introverted, like I stated before, they get their forum to share their thoughts and ideas. It's a great way to actually brainstorm, because the idea just keeps going and going and going until it comes to a natural stop. And then you just do it all over again with the next topic. When you're done, you gather all the information, put it up on the board, and then vet the ideas. And that's when you pressure test them. The next method that I wanted to share is called the charrette method. And this really should be used for large brainstorming groups when you're trying to tackle many different topics or objectives. The way it works is you divide into groups and each group gets a single topic. There's a time limit on how long your group can brainstorm that one topic that you're assigned to. When time is up and your group moves on to the next topic, building off what the group before you has already done. You continue doing this until each group has covered each topic. Then you gather all the ideas and information, you put it up on the board, and once again, vet the ideas, but more importantly, if there's one that jumps out, you let the group or the person speak directly to that in front of everybody. Another simple one that I like is called the 5 whys. This is great to do if you're by yourself or if you're in a group. It's also good to solve any problem. It doesn't have to be just used for creative purposes. And essentially what you do is you start off with your problem or your objective, and you just start asking the question, why? And you keep dissecting the problem further and further and further until you get to the root cause. The idea is that the more that you deconstruct and simplify the problem, the easier the solve will be. This is a very simple one just to use, like I said before, in any aspect of your life, but you can also use it creatively. Another brainstorming method that is, I think, one of the most fun ones to execute on is called figure storming. This is when you pick 4, it could be 5, 6, it doesn't really matter how many people, but you pick random people. They can be fictional or non-fictional. They can be celebrities, business leaders, athletes, musical artists, politicians, it doesn't really matter. And then you think about how that person would specifically approach solving that problem or objective. Would they write a song? Would they start a movement? Would they create a foundation? It really does take you out of your comfort zone and you start to think about things radically different. So this one's a lot of fun. But this is the half one I was talking about. A twist on this that I've done in kind of more present day is brandstorming. It's exactly the same as figure storming, except instead of picking people, you pick brands. So it could be Apple, Xbox, Oakley, Coca-Cola, BMW, whatever. And then you think about how those brands would execute on your marketing initiative. Like I said, this is a lot of fun. Creative staff really dig it, and it produces just the most radical ideas. And it, like I said before, it takes you out of your comfort zone and gets you to really think differently about the project at hand. And the final brainstorming method that I like to use is just called a brain dump, and it's incredibly simple. And the object is to get as many ideas in the shortest amount of time. The best way that I found to do this is to incentivize someone or a group of people and create a contest. You can have a prize like a Starbucks gift card or something like that and reward the person that comes up with the most ideas. It's a great way to truly get quantity and give people the liberty just to export a complete stream of consciousness from their brains. After the session, again, round up everything, put it up on the board, see what sticks, see what needs to be discarded. So, of all these brainstorming tactics, each and every one of them are great in helping you unlock creativity and get the juices flowing, whether you're by yourself or within a group. And remember not to put too much pressure on yourself to come up with something that's never been done before. I think this comes up a lot in brainstorming sessions where people will say, oh, well, that's been done, or so-and-so did it, or this brand did it. It doesn't matter, because the truth is it's all been done before. And I challenge you to show me an idea, and I'll show you where someone has done it before in some shape, form, or fashion. The thing is, the key is to make it better than those who did it before you. Get inspired by it. Put your own twist on it. It's remixism. Make it your own. So in closing, I just wanted to recap real quick. You're creative, whether you know it or not. Everybody was born with it. It's not too late to unleash it. You have to channel your inner child. Sometimes you're going to get stuck, and that's okay. It's not a failure by any means. It happens. It happens to everyone. You need to rely on your subconscious mind. I can't stress that enough. Know when to walk away. Don't focus solely on the problem. Ask questions. Let the mind drift. Turn to proven methods for ideations. The 5 that I outlined are great ones to start with. A Google search will reveal dozens and dozens more, I promise. Don't strive for perfection. Get inspired by other people's ideas. Like I just said, it's remixism. Make it your own. Do it better. And most importantly, have fun. This is a great industry that we work in. And, I always like to tell the people I work with, it's much better than digging ditches. So, make sure that you enjoy what you do. And with that, I thank you.
Awesome. You're such a relaxing voice to listen to. I'm feeling chill and creative right now.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to encourage everyone to put some questions in the Q&A box, but the very first thing that stuck out was middle child, hashtag, yay, love middle children.
Hey, issues.
Lots of issues. All kinds of pushing the boundaries is actually what I like to speak of for the middle kids.
That's right.
I didn't have to baby proof. Yeah.
There was one question that came through in the chat. Someone asked if Justin could provide an example of using the 5 whys in a brainstorming session.
Oh, sure. This is right off the top of my head. I'm going to make this up, but it would be something like, let's say it's Pepsi, and they're saying Pepsi Cola says, all right, our issue is people are buying Coke over Pepsi. Well, why is that? Well, it's because Coca-Cola has more money to spend. Well, why is that? Well, they're a more predominant brand. Well, why is that? I guess it's because we're the challenger brand. Well, why is that? Because we have something to prove. Well, why is that? And you just keep going until you get to the taste of a new generation, right? You just keep breaking it down further and further and further until you try to get to the core of what you think the issue is. And then the simplest thing could be, okay, well, if we're the challenger brand and we need to be of a new generation, then we probably should do something towards a younger audience around music, right? And that's how something like that transpires. And that's a very quick off the top of my head example. But if you do that with a group with a lot of thought and a lot of questioning, you will get down to the smallest core issue of what you're trying to hone in on. And lots of times it becomes incredibly simple when you get to that final root cause.
Love that. Love that. Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
So, thinking, like, first of all, this was an amazing presentation, and I'm a designer. I'm a brand designer, so I like work with creativity a lot. And I was thinking, I need a lot of space, like you were saying, to create, to have that, silence in my head to come up with something. But I also need like a deadline. Like I need something that's like forcing me to create something. Otherwise it's like too much space.
Sure.
And I was wondering if you had any tips on like creating something on a deadline, because I feel like a lot of the time I'm like rushing up against a deadline versus like giving myself enough time because the deadline
And I think a lot of that, Anna, comes from a collegiate or academia world, right? Where the test is coming up, and there's those of us that will begin studying right away. And then there's those of us, this guy, that will wait till the night before, Mariska too, and we'll just cram, right? And I think that's two different personality types. Some people are fueled by that deadline. And I think that's natural and that's normal. Others really need a long runway to think and spend a lot of time with the issue. I don't think one begats the other, right? I think that they're both valid. And in this industry, I think everything that we do has a deadline. Most creative people that you talk to, I think, would say the more time they have, the more better it's going to be. But that's not always the case. I've seen some people just completely have a very small window and just crush it because they just do well under pressure. And I think it's just a personal preference. And I think it also has to do with whatever you're working on too, that dictates how much time. I mean, look how Citibank and Travelers logo, you probably heard that story that the one of the co-owners of Pentagram, when she came up with that idea, it came right off the top of her head, and she drew the red arc over the Citigroup, and it just happened within like 5 minutes. Sometimes the best ideas they're just right there on the frontal lobe.
Definitely. Let's see. Okay, I have a question in the Q&A box, and then I have a couple in the chat. So a question from Eddie. Eddie says, Justin, how would you address people who are creative but are hesitant to put ideas on the table for fear they won't get credit for those ideas?
Oh gosh, that's good. So, I think when you enter into, there's a big difference between being an artist and being a designer and working for an agency versus working yourself. And when you're at an agency and you work with a team of people, we all win together and we all lose together. And you cannot hold on too tightly to, well, that's my idea and I'm not getting the proper credit. Now, if it is you working as a solo person and you think someone is infringing on your intellectual property, absolutely, you need to defend that. But when you enter into an agreement with a client or a brand, you're designing for them. You're not doing it for in here. When you're an artist, you do it for yourself. When you're a designer, you do it for others. And ultimately it's their work, it's their win, it's their property. And in an agency environment, if the work gets selected, if there's 3 concepts and you do one of them, your concept doesn't get selected, but one of them does, then it's a win. and you should treat it as such.
Great answer. And then let's see, Matt Pruitt is asking, Justin, what's your favorite icebreaker for a group brainstorm?
I think I know this guy, this Matt Pruitt guy. I always like to do first concert, last concert. So you go around the room and I would say, Anna, what's the first concert you've ever been to? And what's the last concert you've ever been to? Go. I'm putting you on the spot. You have to answer right now.
Oh, you want me to answer? My first concert that I ever went to was Britney Spears. And the last concert I went to was an Odessa concert in Austin, Texas.
See, you go around the room, you find similarities, people laugh at the Britney Spears, and all of a sudden you're ready to jam.
Love it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I really like that. Definitely gonna steal that.
What was yours, Justin?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to show my age here, but my first concert was Van Halen 1984 tour.
Nice, Van Halen.
Yeah, that's a good first.
Yeah, and the last one I went to was probably Radiohead or AC/DC. I can't remember which one it was, but I want to preface that with there was a lot of fluff in between. I don't really rock that hard. I just happened to be bookended by those two.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Eddie, for putting that quote out there. We all win together, we all lose together. It's a great quote.
Yeah.
What else do we have in there, Anna?
Christine asks, do you have any favorite resources for content? I'm not sure exactly what to
Well, I mean, if you're talking about personal content, I'm a big Reddit fan. And I love Reddit just because it's free of any kind of, I feel like these other places that you go to seek out content, there's either a dialogue behind them, or it's politically charged, or there's like just a lot of rhetoric around it. I just like content. So at Reddit, you can follow different subreddits and boards specifically to the community that you're interested in. So I'm also a big imager person. So I love to just get in there and get lost on it. And finally, TikTok. I mean, TikTok is just a great place.
I was literally going to ask you if you watch TikTok for creativity.
I am.
So
I'm not a contributor. I'm mostly a connoisseur, and what started out as like silly dances has really become a media darling for a place for expression and liveliness, and I love it. I can get on there and I just go for
entertained. It's like constant entertainment. I
like to say that what Instagram is to hubris, TikTok is to self-expression.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
That's another good quote. Type it in.
Because I often find pop culture being kind of a source of creativity. Like if I need to come up with ideas, I'll just start like going online and seeing, I don't know, I'll just Google stuff and what are people saying about this or showing about that. Like I just need to sort of connect with sort of the greater space out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm starting to see like shows like Saturday Night Live taking a lot of their comedic cues from trending memes and turning that into a sketch comedy or a skit because it was funny online, and they're bringing it into broadcast. So, I think that it's fueling a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was scrolling through TikTok till like 1 o'clock this morning. It's like a little bit addictive. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing this.
Right. That's what you just keep going. Are there any sort of brands, like, so that idea of like getting ideas from content, like are there brands that you follow or people that you follow or
Well, that's a good question. I follow a lot of car brands. I follow because I love racing and cars and design. I follow a lot of shoe brands. Red Bull, I think, produces amazing content kind of machine with the Red Bull Media Group. Now, granted, it's a lot of extreme sports, but it's just always entertaining, and I think it's always done right. I'm really all over the place. I'm not a fanboy of like any one particular fan, but there are a lot of different artists outlets out there that one can follow to get inspired.
Yeah. Yeah, we have another question came in. I was just going to say, but even like art galleries, again, just to maybe even not always going down the pop culture route and just walking. I think art is also an amazing source of inspiration, and you have that sort of quiet space in, whether you're in a museum or a gallery, and you're just sort of like trying to imagine what this person was thinking as they were creating this art. I think that's another source to.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
I find also like just street signs and like walking around, if you're in like a visual creator inspired by like fonts or different things like that, versus like if you're going onto Pinterest, you're going to see a lot of, the same things over and over again. But if you're out in the world, you're getting like a little bit more of those different content ideas.
That's a good thought. It just made me think of, we have a question that came in, but I'd be curious to the audience if anyone has a Pinterest board that they've created to sort of track different fonts and colors and graphics to kind of keep their own kind of board going.
Yeah, it wasn't a diss to Pinterest. It's my favorite. I love Pinterest. I create boards for everything.
Yeah, Pinterest is cool. I've recently gone into Pinterest to kind of document memories from my childhood, like toys and games and video games. And I have a whole board called My Childhood Experience. And I'll literally go back and I'll look at those things, and I have these responses to where I can it takes me back to playing as a child. And it's really cool. And I found it all on Pinterest.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's a neat idea.
TikTok, Justin, if you just did a slide with all of those nostalgic toys.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that trend.
Okay, Elise sent us a question. She says, working in an agency, you can't always control the projects you're assigned to. If you're assigned a project you're not super thrilled about, how do you overcome that to still deliver the best product possible? What a good question.
That is tough. That happens a lot. I think those of us that work at agencies, we might have a dilemma with maybe the work that we're doing is boring, or it's not a product we use, or maybe there's a moral dilemma, like we don't believe in their stance politically or what they stand for. So I think a couple ways that you can look at it is you can try to push it as far as you can go. Like if it's for let's say a retirement community, like what can you do that's radically different that would just kind of flip that industry on its ear and say, like, this is something that's never been done. Push the clients as much as you can out of their comfort zone. Try to be as innovative as you can with the ideas or the designs that you develop. But also I would say, talk to your art director, creative director, or creative officer to say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. And in the future, maybe you could put so-and-so on it, because as someone that manages creative individuals, we want people that are going to be passionate about the project. And chances are there might be someone that's into saving the turtles, or someone that is into go-kart racing, or someone that is into whatever the subject matter might be. Maybe their aunt, uncle, cousin, brother, sister, or somebody does it, and they have this kind of niche audience, or someone that they know how to reach out to kind of make it impactful. So I think it's also having an open dialogue to say, this project, I'm struggling with it because it's just not for me. I can't, I'm hitting a wall because I find this to be incredibly boring. But there's some times when you're going to have to just grin and bear it. And remember, art is for yourself, design is for others. And sometimes you just got to do the job to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
True. I'll get, I think a great example of taking something that was so boring and whoever the first person was that flipped it around, but was the insurance industry.
That's 100%. I was just going to say that the insurance commercials are now the new shoe commercials.
Oh, I literally like I look for them, I think they're so funny.
Yeah.
That's such a good example. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't take something that's more boring than insurance. And now all of these companies, I mean, in particular, Progressive, I don't know if they were the first ones, but all of them now are just being that one. And I can't now remember the brand, but the guy that is teaching these people to not be like their parents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's Progressive. That's Dr. Rick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Progressive too. Okay. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
They're good.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, the one where that says like the sign that's like live.
Oh, I think you froze,
Am I
Marissa.
frozen?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I was saying that sign that says like live, love, laugh together.
And he throws it in the trash can at the end. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. And I think this is another great way to connect with those 5 whys that you were talking about earlier. Like if there's something that's really boring to you or that you don't connect with, maybe you can connect with like the core of what they're trying to do, or with the audience, the core of what that audience needs, and like get into their mind versus your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the toughest thing, is whether you're designing for the brand or you're presenting to the brand. Lots of times we design for the client, meaning who that marketing director is. And lots of times the marketing, we say like, well, I just don't think Mariska would like this. She hasn't approved this kind of stuff in the past. Well, we're really doing ourselves a disservice, as well as the brand, if we're not designing for the brand and the target audience, but we're designing for what we think Mariska is going to approve. Then we're not doing our job as an agency. So our duty really is to convince Mariska why, if she's the client leadership person, why we're doing this and how we're going to reach our target audience. But I think we get in too much of it. Oh, I already know that they won't like that. She doesn't like that kind of stuff. Well, maybe her consumers will.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
I know we're a minute off the hour here, and I want to kind of tell the folks here about our next events in April. But first and foremost, Justin, thank you. This is
you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Oh, did we lose? Are you back?
She's back.
She's back.
Oh, you were okay. So huge thank you to Justin. Another shout out to Matt Pruitt. Thank you, and thank you to Mesh for sharing Justin with us today. And I want to just tell everyone our next event is April 14th, is our monthly marketing meetup. You can sign up, it's free, just join us and we talk shop for an hour. And then we have a really cool event on April 28th, the last Wednesday of the month, which is Consumer POV. So your consumer point of view, the role of social justice in your brand. We've seen a lot of that in the last year. There is a really cool research that has been done by a local market research company, MDRG. And so they're going to be presenting the outcome of their research around what do consumers think about having social justice in today's brands. So that's it for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome afternoon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.